I said, it's as bad as having pineapples in your clam chowder. And the guy said, I don't like pineapples in my clam chowder. We're not doing this.
I jumped into your LinkedIn earlier, and the first thing I see is this big banner that says technical leadership is 80% non-technical. What does that mean?
That's a very good question, and that's the question that I wanted my audience to understand in one nutshell, which are, who are engineers, and engineers will become managers as well. And my audience is mostly about, I have learned coding and I want to do better and better, but I want to become a leader, either a technical lead, a manager, or somebody who's not managing people, but people look up to you. And what does that mean when you're leading them? One of the things that happens to everyone is, if I know more information technically, then I can lead people. You can mentor them probably. You can give them some tips and tricks. But if you want to coach them, if you want to inspire them to take an action towards doing something, or if you're having a conflict, a decision to make, anything else, that requires a different type of skills, and those are people skills. And that's leadership. Leadership is not knowing about how to write the best for loop, but it's about how to inspire somebody to write the best for loop on at their own terms. That's what leadership is about. And so if you once we learn this part, 80%, even though you are going to help them understand the technical aspect, you're going to ask those questions, and that's the 20% part. You're not solving them. You're asking them questions which raise the bar on technical aspects, like something to improve technically. But you need that first 80% part.
Cool, yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. So you mentioned mentoring and coaching there. There's a lot of confusion for a lot of people. What is
That's
mentoring?
right.
What is coaching? So do you see the difference, and where do you draw the line between the two?
I see this. So drawing the line is also important. You go generally from mentoring to coaching. I realize that everybody knows something how to do. Like my mom has certain skills, and if I want to learn from her, she can just tell me what to do and how to do about that. And that's mentoring. But when someone wants to do something and they know exactly the plan, like people come to me, they say, "Hey, I want to join Facebook, Google. How do I prepare for the interview?" I can give them the entire script. Here's how you go about preparing for it. But they won't take action. They just won't. It's the imposter syndrome stopping them, thinking other feelings about resistance towards making that. They have energy blocks. So coaching is not about giving you tips and tricks. Coaching is about tips and tricks come in later on. First of all, how do you actually take action on that knowledge that you learn? And that's what coaching is. It removes the energy blocks, those blocks that are stopping you from making that happen. And so it's a bit of a therapy plus building trust with you, and then helping you take some steps, and then taking. So it's coaching is a bit of a mentoring, but mostly therapy if you're stuck somewhere, and then learning about how to make progress. So that's where I see going from mentoring towards coaching.
So I might sum that up then as mentoring is you don't quite have the skills, so you're going to work with somebody and give them the skills to do it. Where
Yeah,
coaching is you have the skills, but you're not quite applying them. You're not quite getting over that imposter syndrome.
that's right.
You haven't got the confidence, or you haven't figured out how to apply that knowledge. So it's more giving you the tools and techniques to use what you already know, whereas mentoring
Yeah,
would be more giving you the tools and techniques to do the thing.
that's right.
Cool, yeah. So coming back then to becoming a leader, you mentioned that transition. What are the biggest pain points that you see in people making that transition from being an individual contributor to their first leadership role?
A lot of folks who are aspiring managers, they who have come to me specifically about their career change, they think getting into management is about 80% about setting the vision, the strategy, like all the good pieces you see in Hollywood movies. They all come with that. I want to manage it. Why? Because I want to set the vision. Really, 80% of times your boss is chasing you, you're running with some numbers, right? Somebody's complaining, you're taking out fires, all of those things are happening around you. And doesn't matter how good you are, first year is like that. And if it's not like that, It's going to come up later on when you're least prepared, right? So you want to, so so that's what they're not expecting, but they want to do that part, right? And then so one key thing that I realize that happens in people is, which happened to me, and I see that happen to almost everyone that comes to me, even if they have 5 year experience in management. What they do is that they start thinking about this is our world, and the world we see it is running sprints, running some scrum meetings here and there, and maybe doing one-on-ones with my boss and my employees, the way my boss spoke with me. And but the other things about working a product manager is not new the way they should be doing it. They also have a mindset of a backlog that I have tasks to do, and they'll set up meetings, one-on-ones with boss, people everywhere, and they're trying to be busy. Like I'm just doing work and running busy. Thing is that as a manager, you can be busy like an IC, but if the outcome is not happening, if the outcome is you're not getting the outcome, you are getting fired because your boss is not going to just to take the word for you that your team was busy doing stuff. My boss came to me after first month when I became a manager. He was a vice president of platform, and I was running a team. We were building a dashboard for big data pipeline on latency metrics for Yahoo. And so he came up to me and said, "So, what are we doing about latency?" I said, "We are building new features that we can track mobile latency." And he said, "No, but what are we doing about latency? Like, what's the plan to bring it down?" And I'm like, I know plans for Yahoo Mail and Yahoo Search, but our plan is to put these features in the dashboard. And he's like, I didn't hire you to make dashboards. Your job is to bring the latency down. If that requires you to build a dashboard, go for it. If you can do it without that, go for it. But don't come to me after 3 months saying latency, we'll just build features. It's about the outcomes that matter. So that's the first part. People, I think the difficult part that they hit is the output versus the outcome.
Yeah, that's interesting. A lot of my experience has been that first-time managers are or struggle to step away from the code. They stay a bit too involved and they stay focused.
Mm,
Maybe that's a little bit of the same. They say, I'm going to go and build this thing, so a dashboard or so on. And they keep
mm,
focused on building rather than stepping back. And I guess looking at the strategic element of, the outcome that we want is to reduce latency, not
yeah.
necessarily to build a dashboard for it. What's your approach now in coaching managers to step away from that and to start thinking it's not about building something, it's about achieving the desired outcome. And it's about how I do that for the team.
It's an excellent question. So what I've realized is there is an orientation that we have when we come to work. For example, as an individual contributor, your orientation is I'm in isolation. I have this work that I need to finish, and you want to keep on going towards that isolated work. Like I want my time. I'll do one-on-ones, and I want my time so I can do some stuff. You have to sort of let that go. Like the entire office or entire space is your space, and you can be needed anywhere you want. You need to be. So now you need a new compass. Like what are you aiming for? And so first, I work with my clients to see what what kind of a leader they aspire to be. I'll give one example that sticks most with people. How about you become a leader who's just standing, not doing anything at all, just standing, and your team is doing everything. Like they don't need your help. They have everything they need. They're marching, they're giving excellent results. You're just hearing good news, right? And sometimes you're hearing some bad news here and there, but you're taking care of. But mostly, 80% of your time, you're doing nothing with the existing team, which means now you can think about building a new team, thinking about new ideas, how you can improve the business. That's what your goal is. If you can do that part, then you can keep on adding more in the scope and adding more in the impact. Now, some people come to me where they haven't figured this stuff out. They still want to increase their scope. I'm like, you're going to get burnt out. They're already burning out. Like this guy came to me from Amazon and he was like, I love my work. I'm just loving it. I know I work more, but I love my work. But here's what I'm not liking. Over the last 1 years, I'm spending less time with my daughter. I've got diabetes now. I'm like, dude, you're not burning out? He was like, no, I'm not burning out. It's like, okay, maybe we need some other awareness, but you're clearly burning out, right? So what's happening is that you didn't change your habits, but you want to increase your scope. Now, with this tactic, if we have that orientation, now you want to be in that place where you automate everything. You don't need it. So now all of your one-on-ones your backlog grooming, giving a team guidance is going to come from that place where you want to free up your time. So you will get less involved in mentoring them and you will be more involved in coaching them so they take care of their own ownership. Instead of you just thinking about how do they change, you start changing yourself. That you need to change the way you communicate, the way you think about it, so you can bring the change in them because once they have the change, you're free. You can do more stuff.
So, in a way, then, would you advise first time managers to shrink their scope as much as possible and absolutely nail what they're doing and then expand it back out again once they've made that transition, once they've started to realize how they can create the team, empower the team, and then start removing themselves from it so they can then look to the wider horizon, look to the broader horizon?
I think the question about reducing the scope is interesting, John. I haven't thought about this angle about reducing the scope. When I think about it now, there are a few things that when I give this advice to another manager to do that, there are a few insecurities will come up. I'm reducing my scope. Am I not capable? Right? What do I tell my boss? I just took a job and then I'm saying I want to reduce it. Right? People typically fight for expanding more. I'm going against that. So those factors will play. Right? At the same time, we can suggest that, or we can think about that somebody was running this already, and this is your playing field. How would you go about optimizing yourself? So number one part that I tell a team, a manager, when they take on a project, is to start from the operation issues. Every time, even as an engineer, the best way to start is where things are going bad. This is the place we don't want to go. We want to stay away from them. So that's a habit we have as an engineer, that I don't want to work on legacy code. I don't want to like go through that. I want like everything clean, great. But the thing specifically about leadership is that you will be in a whirlwind and you have to sail your ship. Every time it will never be calm seas. So when you get used to that part, you see, okay, I want to start from operational issues. Once we start optimizing on the operational issues, then you have less firefights. So you start having breathing room. Your team is typically doing well on the feature development. It's always where the issues are, where they need you upfront. So you can help them calm down, take an action, mitigate, resolve. So you want to make those decisions over. Those are key decisions. I learned this, by the way, when I was at Microsoft, and I was the program manager initially for first 2 years, and I would go around different teams, and every vice president was always concerned about something called fundamentals. Let's look at our operational issues. And they would focus on that. And because the team would be doing great on the greenfield projects, it's just focusing on the bad areas.
That's interesting. I want to pull on that a little bit because I've seen a number of posts over the last couple of weeks on various social media platforms that are leaders, some fairly senior, talking about, I'm starting a new role, and in my first 90 days, I don't intend to change anything. Now, I don't know, maybe I've been unlucky when I've worked into leadership roles, or maybe I take particular types of roles, but I can't imagine having the luxury of taking 90 days in a role to just come in, survey the landscape, and do nothing. I've normally been hired to come in and fix something that was broken. I've come into a team that was fundamentally not delivering, and there's been a customer shouting who wants their thing fixed next week. So I've had to hit the ground running, find those fires, and start firefighting from day one. What's been your experience? Have you seen that you come in and have that 90-day luxury to look around, or have you been like me, coming firefighting, or somewhere in between?
I think it's a mix of all of them. It's hard to put a finger which one was it. So the way I see coming in and fixing things or changing things and improving things is number one part. There's a reason this team is still working and they're doing something. So there is something good they're doing. Now, from the outside, when I come in, I always see a bunch of things wrong. By default, I see like everything is happening wrong, no matter where I went. Microsoft, Yahoo, you name it. Everything was just wrong, wherever I went. And when I joined this company called Ariba, it was acquired by SAP in 1 month when I joined that company. And what that company did was something amazing. There was a representative who came in a town hall meeting and they said, we are going to watch you for 1 year. We are not making any changes because we are expecting some changes to come in. No changes for 1 year. There's something good you have been doing. This is why we acquired you. We want to learn from you. What good are you doing? And after 1 year, we'll have enough data for us to suggest what to change because we don't want to change what's working for you. In fact, we want to apply that to SAP as well. I like that idea, but 1 year is too long. You're right about, something you have like reduced timeline. Same thing happened to me when I was joined a startup company as a head of engineering. When I was there, I had to hire people, double the team, and they had hiring process was not good. I had to modify the hiring process significantly. So what I typically do is when I join a new team, there are certain operation areas which have to be fixed. So I'll change those areas. I'll start focusing on them. At the same time, things that are running well, let's say in feature development, some velocity, they're doing good. I'll keep on joining meetings and learning about what people are saying, what they like about it, what the vibe is. You don't want to change the vibe that's happening. Sometimes I bring in the bad vibe, by the way. Like I would bring in my vibe from, let's say, from previous company, and this new company, people work differently. This is not how you should be working. I don't want that to change. I want to blend into the culture, what the company is doing, learn from that. But in the beginning, you do want to understand the operational issues and double down on them because the customer is having a pain. So it's a balance.
Yeah, it's finding that balance, isn't it? Coming in and fixing the fires, but don't poke and meddle on things that aren't necessarily important
Yeah.
and also aren't on fire. Take that time to understand it. And you hit on a key point there that we forget about is that what is good practice or what is the right leadership approach in one environment might be completely different for a different group. You can have a
Yeah.
very different group of people that have got a very different vibe, as you put it, and they might require a very different style of leadership from you. One might want a very pace-setting, fast-paced set of leadership, and another group might want you to be very visionary but hands-off, and a third group
Yeah.
might want somebody that's in the trenches with them and doing it. So you need to understand and flex to be the right leader for the situation, shall we say. Very cool. You mentioned Microsoft there, and in the talk I saw you doing earlier, you mentioned that when you went to Microsoft, you stepped away from engineering and became a technical product manager, I believe.
Yeah. Yes.
What made you make that choice? And some people might say that that's career suicide.
That I was told that's a career suicide. Uh, I have always hated Microsoft. I'm just telling you this upfront, like from the bottom of my heart. I've always hated them. At Yahoo, I was for 2 years I was a front end engineer, and no matter what you do, you have to write code different for IE9. That shit would never die. It would always be there. And then they did Microsoft Vista. I was like, damn. And so when I was at Carnegie Mellon, one of the case studies I did was the failure of Vista. And I found out while people had the reasoning, everybody came up with branching model and this and that and etc. They did not include technical program management in changing the decision about the product, the kind of product they were doing. And because of that, they missed out on key information about their environment, their ecosystem, like what hardware was going to be available, .NET time, deadlines, all of that. They just skipped everything. And a bunch of engineered managers got together and decided on the backlog, and they changed a minor release into a major release. And so that was something I was always in my head at the back is this role seems quite important because it is touching like having a big impact. When I became that manager at Yahoo and I had to reduce latency, I went across different teams at Yahoo and I was slapped around for 6 months because I was coming from an engineering manager perspective and a new principal engineer who became an engineering manager discussing on design and negotiation versus this was different. This was people's goals and timelines and execution, like all of that was in there. And so learning through that, I realized I was doing program management. I was not assigned a program manager, and frankly I loved it after 6 months because I could see I was now listening more to people. I was understanding their concerns. I had become a better people manager as well because I was doing this because I don't have control over these people. Right? You can think, yeah, I don't have control of my team. I allow them, but then you're living in this bubble where you think you're not doing that, but actually you're controlling your people. So when you actually work with people who you can't control, they give you the right lessons, feedback, and that changes the leadership nature you have. And you start leading the people who report to you, but not in a way where you don't have any authority. So I like that part I was becoming. So I said, I want to go to a place where I do program management, but it has to be the most difficult place. And everybody said Microsoft. I said, yes, I have something brewing from Microsoft from some days. So I'm going to go and join Microsoft. My mentor said, don't do that because your career suicide. I said, no, I'll do it. When I interviewed at Microsoft, they actually gave me a principal engineering manager role. And I said, no, I want technical program manager. The recruiter said this is a career suicide, but she found another role. I joined that team. And you know what? I loved it because every week I was met with hostility, people screaming at me. And that made me, not that they were bad, there was something going on which they were unable to understand. And this made me a better coach as well because now I can pause, control my emotions, thinking there's something going on wrong over here. And I found that like people didn't have awareness. There was some people were screaming, but they were actually very passionate. So the way they were speaking was giving the wrong vibes, but they wanted good stuff. And so there were minor adjustments brought big, big changes at Microsoft. And that thing, even though people said it was that, I was a different program manager. I was an architect who understood systems. And so now I'm talking to people, not knocking on doors with some KPI, but understanding what they're going through, understanding the program, strategy. So I learned strategy and how to work with people over here significantly. That led me to a job at Walmart, which was managing 250 plus people. And I could do that job because now I understand how the business works, how the strategy works, and how I can be not involved in the weeds and guide the team, understand where they're stuck so they can keep on. Like, they don't need me. The people are stuck because there's some energy blocks, conflicts. I can solve those like that. That was a huge change for me. People don't typically, I would do that again. Did I get lucky? I don't think so. Uh, I had five bosses, and the third one almost fired me. but
That's quite a lot.
but yeah, but then I ended up being again into the engineering management because I wanted to switch. So each boss who came, he saw that person saw my capabilities, what I was doing. They wanted to keep me there so I can keep on making the impact. But that the fifth boss that I worked with, we switched to the engineering management role to bring it the team again.
So it sounds like, many of us will advise engineers throughout their career to change role when they've stopped growing and to pick a role that give them as much growth as possible. It sounds like you really did live that. You said that's the role that's going to give me the biggest challenges, the most growth. I'm going to do it. To hell with what anyone else says about whether it's career suicide.
Yeah.
That's commitment, I guess.
There is commitment. I'll tell you one part over here. It's not like people can't do it. Being a coach, I have people who are having difficulty finding an EM role these days, for example. So they're TPM roles. I said, hey, you can try TPM roles too. TPM to EM is hard, but EM to and TPM, you can find that role. Um, the thing is, we don't want to let go of our career. Like, oh, I have built this. If I switch now, I'm like letting go of all of I've done, right? So it's sort of a feeling about like now it's important to have a mindset about your own growth and what you care about. I actually follow Arnold, the bodybuilder, a lot since my childhood. Now, that guy was a bodybuilder. He built that. Then he went towards movies. He became a rock star movie actor. Then he went towards a governor of California. Now he's an influencer on LinkedIn. He writes newsletters every Monday, Monday motivation, right? So when you think about it, it's not about what I can do or what I'm letting go of. The idea that no matter what I pick, I will be awesome at it because I'm going to give it my best. And then the rest will happen the way it happens. I can't control that. I think that's the idea everyone needs to have. 3 years ago, I decided I'm going to let go of my career path. Right? I was on that path, early 40s. Why change that? I said no, because I got to go to my kids live in Toronto. So I've been thinking about how do I change my career that I don't have to depend on living in California or salary I make in the US, and I can be with my kids for good in Toronto. I said, okay, this has to come with letting go of my career path because that part doesn't work in Canada as is. And I need to become a coach, something I like doing that part. So I tapped into it. Now I have a master's degree from Carnegie Mellon. That's a huge asset that I've been carrying as a software management. My career of 20 plus years working at these companies. Sure, that's the path towards that. But thinking that I can switch, I can let go because I know I'll give it my best and I'll learn something. I think if everyone starts with this mindset, a winner's mindset, then you can switch your career. If you don't have this mindset, it's going to be very hard of letting go of what you know already to go something into new that you have to learn completely.
Yeah, I completely agree. I've had the same approach. I've gone from running my own business to being employed, to being a contractor, to back to running my own business, to being employed. And I've gone from being a senior manager, VP engineering, back to being an IC, and back into management again. So I would say I've focused on enjoying the journey and going where I can learn and grow in a similar sort of thing. And I think, yeah, I agree. More people should do that. I didn't
Having a
know you
winner's
based it.
mindset does really help a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't know you based it off Arnie, and I've misplaced his book now. But have you read his recent book?
Which one?
I can't see it just at the moment. It's called the Seven Tools for Life.
No, I haven't.
It's a great book. Really enjoyed that, and he led out the audiobook, so it was really interesting to hear about some of his stories from when he was the governor of California and some of the things that happened there and some of the completely different challenges he had to bodybuilding and to being an actor. And so that journey, as you say, it's fascinating in his approach.
He talks about all his challenges, like the accent he had, and then his heart issue with bodybuilding, and not enough money to eat and all for the bodybuilding. It's like fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's long been an inspiration of mine. I'm back before I started my career. I wrote AI for the computer game Quake and did some bots for that. And my series of bots were called The Oak, after Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I see. Nice. Nice.
Cool. So, talked a lot about mentoring and coaching then, and we mentioned that a bit. So, how important do you think it is for software engineers as they move from beginning of their career to later stages of their career to mentor?
There are a few benefits of mentoring. So we are not talking about coaching, we're just talking about mentoring specifically. One benefit is you learn better. One of the best ways to learn something is to teach it. And because now you have to do more research, you have to be more thorough. You're teaching somebody some knowledge. You don't want to, say something which is not right. So you do a better job at that. And then when you try to frame it to somebody so they can understand it, if you can't do that, it means you don't understand it really well at the moment. So you keep on spending time until somebody else can understand your message, your mentoring, so you have also truly understood that part. So that's one key benefit of mentoring for the engineers if they want to start doing that. The other part is that, if you learn the trick of mentoring, then what happens that you get into a place where you can start delegating your work. There's some of the work which you don't want to do, but there are people who want to learn how to do it. And if you can start learning how to mentor them in a way where you are not doing the work for them, meaning you're not spoon feeding them, because that's the first mistake every mentor makes. They want to do the right thing, but they end up helping the person. And I had one coworker when I was a senior software engineer. He was having difficulty writing SQL queries, and he would try a little bit and step back and then say, "Hey, I can't do this." I would step in. What is it? Between statement, this is how you write it. And I would write the entire statement. And so every day he would do that. One day I said, "You know what? I think you can Google the answer." I'm not doing this for you. So you also have to learn. You're mentoring people, but you're not really you're not spoon feeding them. And that's the first mistake a lot of people make. I think it's a huge benefit of mentoring, coaching, teaching people, especially when you learn better. That's the key piece.
Yeah, I think it's quite important when you're mentoring to maybe show a little bit, but then step away from the keyboard, give it back, and let them drive, let them go through the process. Yeah. Otherwise, you can end up doing it for them. So we talked a little bit there, and you mentioned coaching a few times, because I think that for me at least, the mentoring is good as you get mid to senior. You can start mentoring people a few years behind you on the journey. You start to build up a few more of those soft skills, and then as you go on, as you say, you can start delegating. I see that as a natural transition then as you get more senior to then leading into a bit of coaching and developing some soft skills for leadership, and touching a little bit there on this kind of skills you mentioned earlier that you had to influence people. Do you agree? Do you think that that's a natural transition and the coaching skills become more important as you become, shall we say, a senior and a senior and into staff and principal level?
I think I've seen people do well without coaching skills. I've seen people do well with coaching skills too, but I've seen people also do well, equally well without coaching skills. what I haven't seen people do well without the coaching skills if they don't learn how to influence people.
Yeah,
So if you're a
absolutely.
principal engineer, you can't influence. It's okay if you can't coach your boss, but can you influence your boss? That's the key. It's okay if you can't coach your team member, but can you influence them to take an action so that they learn on their own? Because that's the key piece of coaching. If somebody comes to me, I have good tips and tricks, but if I can't influence them, they're not applying it. They need to apply those skills. And that's another part about coaching. You build that trust first. That they want to learn from you. They want you to call their bullshit out. Like they have that uh, trust in you that no matter what you guide towards, it will be useful for them. And that's what influence does. You're trying to influence them, and they can choose what steps they want to take.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to talk about influence. Before we go down there, just a little bit, I'll talk about trust that you mentioned there. I saw an engineer complaining the other day that their boss didn't trust them, their teammates don't trust them. And one of my remarks on that was, well, you don't have a right to their trust. You have to from your side earn it, and they don't ever have to trust you. It's their choice of when they give you their trust, and you have no right to that trust from anyone. And anybody you meet in your profession, you have to earn their trust, and you don't really earn it. They choose to give it to you at a certain point. And yes, when we hire someone, we're giving them some trust. That's why we've hired them,
Mm.
because we've built up some level of trust. But your colleagues that weren't involved in the hiring process, they don't have to trust you just because somebody else hired you. They might decide to trust you as a new colleague, but they don't have to. You have to go and earn that. And how do you feel about that? Do you agree, or am I wildly off the mark?
No, no, you're right on the point about you can't expect people to trust you by default. So to the person specifically who was feeling that, why are they expecting people to trust them by default? I mean, they also don't do that part. So there is a question for them to ask themselves as to why are they expecting that? First, it's easy. People just trust me, so it's become my job becomes easy. I don't have to do extra effort to make people trust me, etc. But it's absolutely important. Everybody else, we would want that, right? To trust from the very first day, things becomes easy. But building trust is an intentional activity. It is so important, and it goes in everything we do, everything. So I was just talking to someone right before, our call. I was coaching one of my clients about interview preparation, and for the first time, I saw she had a digital background as she was speaking with me. I'm like, do you typically have digital background or do you blur your screen? She says, not with you, but at work I do. I said, okay. So when you put a digital background, you're telling people that you're hiding stuff. You're not thinking actively, but subconsciously, and especially in an interview, when the when the question is that what are you wrong about? Like judging you that you could be wrong about something or could be hiding something. Now, having a digital background, I don't think intentionally they're hiding something like this, but the words are coming through something digital, something being blurred, right? So you want to understand these areas as well, where you might think this is okay, but if you're intentionally building trust, then you'll start focusing on these things. What am I communicating that I don't want to communicate, but unintentionally I'm communicating that? This person that I was talking about at Microsoft, for example, everyone told me, don't go meet this person. Now, everything was happening from his software. He was building a workflow where other teams would deploy their services and you do Azure installation. Now, AWS does it in 2 days. Microsoft was doing it in 140 days. So we were like, something's messed up here. And everyone's telling me, even my boss told me, you have to meet this guy. So I met this guy. And I was talking, he was screaming at me. And for the first time in my career, I thought I might get slapped today, honestly. So I was sitting and he's walking around, he's screaming at me. After 5 minutes, I started listening to what he was saying. And then he showed me a window of chat. And the same guy I just met who said, don't meet this guy, he's chatting with that guy. And that guy is trying to keep him away, like off, like not talk to him. And he's saying, I'm trying to help, but nobody wants to talk to me. I'm like, okay, he can feel that. What's going on? Like, and so I asked this guy, and it seems like he really wanted to work. But because of his screaming nature and In 10 minutes, he told me 5 times, you people, you people, you people, the way he was like pointing at me without even knowing me. I was like, man, it's very easy to trigger ego in other people like this. Why would anyone want to work with him? Right. So once, that call finished one day, next day I met him, third time I took him for lunch. As I started build some reputation with him, I said, hey, do you want to tell you something you might not like? I said, what? I said, I think if you scream less, people will probably listen to you, work with you more. You know what he told me? He said, I grew up in 90s in a war zone. There were shells falling all around. He was hard of hearing. I didn't know that. You see, a lot of disabilities are also hidden. So once you start becoming more close and you build some trust, then you become genuine and you point out these things, people also connect with you. Now, once I knew that, I realized he has a physical challenge a little bit. So helped him a little bit areas, but then I was working with him other areas and helping him. And so we build that feeling of he's safe without revealing how he grew up and stuff. And so this trust that you go around, you realize big projects don't get done because of how we are not able to build this trust, and we are inadvertently communicating that we are the bad person. We don't, you want to work with me, or things like it.
I think that's a great demonstration of how important it is as well to try and show empathy for people, because there's quite often more to the story than, this guy's bad or this guy shouts. There's a story behind that. There's some reason. There may be something going on. And again, we don't know what's happening in somebody's life, whether it's something long term like that's permanent, or whether they're just going through a very difficult time. Maybe they've got, let's say, kids who are going through a challenging time, and that's playing on them. Maybe they're a new parent and they're sleep deprived and so on. Many of us have been there. So we should always try and have that empathy, and as you say, build that trust and start getting to know somebody and understand their story. Then maybe think about how we can relate to that.
So, John, I like how you summarize this part, but this brings me, I think we need to do one more sentence about this now when I realize this. Going back to the original question. So I think it's important for us to understand that other people, we need to build trust with them so they don't trust us. At the same time, when you are in a leadership position, I think it's important to give people that by default, that I trust that they are here to do their best job. There is something that they're stuck at. And I trust myself that I will find that out. And so once you start with that trust, so you're thinking, we are thinking that my boss might not trust me. I think you want to go with that because it's hard for, even though they're leaders, they would not be doing that because we are all human beings. But if you want to be a good leader and you want to be intentional, you want to think about it. I trust that people are here for good work. I'm here to find out what that problem is. And I'm going to keep on trusting they're here they have good intentions to do work over here.
Trust that they have good intentions and then try and find out what is. Yeah, I like that approach. That's very true. I think the other thing there is that you can win some trust back by starting with your trust. So, make that assumption that they're doing their best and that they are trying to do the right thing. Give them some of your trust, try and work with them, and that's probably going to be a shortcut to gaining the trust back as well. And building that, particularly as you first-time leader or you're new into the role. We mentioned influence there a lot as well, and I think that's incredibly important skill. I've quite often said in my newsletters and my writing on LinkedIn that without soft skills, you can be technically gifted, but you're not going to get much past senior if you don't have soft skills. And the key number one soft skills, 1 and 2 soft skills, will be communication and influence. Do you agree with that? And how would you?
Yeah. No, so one of the things that I learned about is I was taking some communication, I was listening to some communication reel, and this communication expert was saying, if you have skills like 8, high level, but you can only communicate them at the level 2, people think you are at level 2. So
I like that way of putting it.
There's no point. Right? So it's important to learn communication skills so you can communicate, you can market yourself. That's important. Communication is about your ideas, marketing it. You're selling something. You're always selling something. One key thing that used to come in my way of getting out of my cubicle was I would have disgust towards all of these roles, by the way. Like, oh, I'm not a marketing person. Sales, I'm not here to make people, I'm not here to like sell snake oil, right? All those people are just bad. I am an engineer and I do great logical work. This was my thinking. So that identity kept me in my cubicle. And everybody else around me, most of the people hated me. so, so, so then you realize, and so sometimes you get these lucky people. I got some people I was lucky, by the way, in that who met me, who showed me the right way of, like they influenced me. They realize that there are some blocks that I have, they have to remove them. And once those were removed, like immediately through coaching and mentoring, I would see the entire different world. And it feels bad in the beginning, but that feeling bad is the part of the change that you're about to make. Um, so communication is definitely key. Without that, you're not learning anything at all. Learning to like the I'll tell you one example about a communication part, which I would not do it otherwise. I was a contractor sitting in some meeting with my boss and other people. We are all contractors working at Cisco. And there was a group of people who were all Oracle PL SQL developers. And they were all claiming to make a website in PL SQL. And they had done that previously. They had took all the code in PL SQL, including JavaScript. And we had to fix it, by the way. Right. So they just want a job, but we want to do the right way. So we're saying J2E stack, etc. And the decision makers who are sitting around the table, a lot of people, it's a big project. There are vice presidents, and there's one senior vice president and directors. None of them are technical. Only this group, PL SQL, and us talking. And so they don't understand the way we are communicating. Like we are saying pros and cons, but none of them get it. So I sensed it that my boss kept trying to talk about benefits. And suddenly I took my boss's hand, and I said, I'm going to say something. And the SVP asked, how bad is this thing, guys? And I said, it's as bad as having pineapples in your clam chowder. And the guy said, I don't like pineapples in my clam chowder. We're not doing this. That's it. Now, others would think about, but that's not the way you make decisions. See, if you're smart enough and you realize the language the crowd understands, instead of complaining, why aren't you engineering? Why aren't you technical people? Learn to work with that. Be street smart.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to speak their language. And I keep saying this in a lot of my writing on social media, is that we are technical. And it's naive or over optimistic. I don't know which way you want to put the balance. I'm still not sure which way I'd put it, but it's not. Maybe it's both. But it's naive and over optimistic to expect everyone else in a business, sales, marketing, the CEO, finance team, to all come and learn technology to talk to us, when they all talk to each other in the common language of business.
Mm.
So if we want to talk to them and we want to influence them, we have to learn the language that they speak. Yeah. We have to go and speak about the things that they care, whether that's talking to them about the balance sheet and profit and loss, or whether it's pineapple and clam chowder. That's a new one to me.
Awesome. Cool.
I'm aware I've taken up quite a lot of your time, so maybe I'll start ending this with just a final question of where you are now and you're coaching and mentoring people. Mainly coaching, I think, is, if I understand it correctly. How important do you feel it has been throughout your career to have a coach? And do you still have one?
I have different coaches, and I look for coaches in all over the place. I looked at coaches when I was doing my business, learning about it. How do I sell? Because for me, selling is bad. So I met multiple sales coaches. I got their ideas. I took some lessons from them. For me, like in different areas, I do one-on-one coaching. That's a high ticket sales. Then I'm doing courses as well. And so there is sales of that. Then there is marketing aspect. Now, LinkedIn. So learning and coaching has changed significantly. LinkedIn is also a gold mine. Like I'm teaching people through my posts. I learn through your post. I actually watch you. I've been watching you for 1 year, John. You have grown your audience. Amazing. I watch your comments where you go and the kind of comments you write, how you interact with them. Like their last comment on my post got 100 plus likes. Like my post got like 200 likes. You got like 114 likes. That's your comment. So I was like, damn, that's how you write a comment. Right? So lessons, our coaches, our mentors are everywhere. We just have to open the door and allow it versus thinking, oh, this person is doing that, I'll do something else. Our coaches are everywhere. We're all learning. I coached Jordan Cutler. He talks about my coaching getting into Pinterest. But when I work with him, and he still does, he will tell me where I'm not doing right in my social post or my, something that I'm not doing right because he has 80K plus followers. He's doing really well in that area. He's experienced. So learning from coaches from all ages, from all the places all around the world has been my thing, and LinkedIn has been a pure gold mine.
Yeah, I think that brilliantly leads me on to one point I'd really like to make in that I've seen a few people, and there was a post on LinkedIn that I commented on the other day about this, that people look for the perfect coach, the one perfect coach. I'm like, why? It's a coach that will help you now. You are here on your journey. You want to get to this point somewhere over here. There are many people ahead of you. You don't need the perfect coach for your own journey. Just somebody that's a little bit ahead of you. And as you say, maybe that's somebody for sales. Maybe that's somebody for coding. Maybe it's somebody for leadership. Those could be three different people. They might be the same person. Maybe you want to improve your communication skills. Maybe that's a different coach. You can have 3, 4, 5, as
Yeah.
many different coaches, as many different mentors as you want. And you're not stuck with one for life either. You can work with them for 3 or 4 sessions and make an improvement and get something from that, and then find the next one for the next area that you're most focused on. Cool. I've taken up a lot of your time, so I want to hand it back to you. Is there anything you'd like to talk about in the last couple of minutes? Anything you'd like to mention? Any topics that you really want to get off your chest?
Some topics I want to get off my chest. That's a good one. I could actually get something off, but that's a trick question. I'm not going to get stuff off. I'm kidding. Um, well, number one is I want to tell you something over here. I really appreciate your coding challenges.
Thank you.
There is a part which is missing, and not many people are doing it, John. Right? Like you said, learn from one person. The person, there could be like different type of coding challenges like people are doing, just like yourself. And so the audience has different ways of learning because it's a very important skill. Like these days, a lot of folks are coming to me from boot camp. So they say, what do I do to enhance my resume and something? And I was like, why don't you have a personal project here? And they're like, we have this from Full Stack Academy or some other academy. It's like the company name is Full Stack Academy. They know it's something like that. Secondly, if it's there, can I view it? Can I go on some online URL and I can see it in action? They have GitHub repository, but they don't have something running in action, right? So I think one solution, I just getting off my chest for you, is I think it'd be great. I don't know, maybe you do it already. Maybe I haven't explored a full service, but something for them to also deploy it into production and having their own URL domain, like something that they buy maybe $8 per year, but it's part of their whole thing. And people can come and view the links, like what they have done, right? And maybe making it, gamifying it more for them so they keep on doing it. Because if you are an engineer and you're looking for a job, even as a principal engineer, we talked about coaching and soft skills a lot. I want to mention something very important. Like today, I was helping the other person on principal engineer. And this person was saying that, but at my work, I don't write code anymore. I do most of this and this and that. I said, you're telling me somebody who's hiring, they expect you not to code or not being capable to code. They want to test you through that. If needed, you can. So sure, you'll end up doing other stuff, but they want to see the hiring an engineer. So you can be great at soft skills and design, but if as an engineer, you cannot write code, understand system, understand code review, all those important basic factors, you're not getting hired. Other factors will come afterwards. Nobody's going to hire you because you have a great attitude, but you can't write a for loop. You're not getting hired. I'm just saying, right? So you gotta have to focus. So a lot of times I send people to your coding challenges. So when they come and say, I don't have that, I say, okay, go about, you start doing those. So it will make them better. What I'm trying to tell you is that it would be great if you can also provide a service where they can deploy their code and it's functioning online so people can come and view it. I think that'd be a great service.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. And it's something I'd like to see a few more people do. Some people have done for some of the full stack apps. Strangely, it tends to be more the junior level developers that have actually done that. The ones that have come out for boot camps have been the ones that then taken forward and deployed it. I would like to see more on some of the things like when you build a clone of Redis, for example, or Memcached. I like to see more people have their GitHub have a lead me invite, and this is how you pull it and run it. Because a lot of them is like,
Yeah.
I did this, here's the code. And I've started a new series recently, every other week, where I go through and do it from the challenges, where I look at the solutions that people have shared and provide feedback. And some of the most common feedback is put something in the README that tells me how I pull the repository and how I run it. How do I see it? How do I run the tests?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's a great part for me to build on and make it even more valuable for people. Thank you for the great suggestion.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, cool. Anything else that you wanted to share before we wrap
That's
up?
it. I think this. If I continue, I can keep on going. I can talk. So I think it's important to stop me from talking.
Well, it would be great to follow on sometimes, and maybe
Definitely.
if this works for us both, we can have a good chat and talk a little bit more. I'd love to dig into some more of those areas and the soft skills and the influence. But where should people go best to find you? What's the one place that they should go and find a little bit more about the coaching you offer?
LinkedIn is right now the best place. I'm still developing my website. It's in the works. But LinkedIn is the best site. And over there, you also visit my website. So whenever it's ready, they can also go and look at it. I do have services when they visit the website link right now. It has my courses, my coaching link, and other areas, newsletter as well. But LinkedIn would be the one place profile where they would go and find stuff.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much for your time, Taha. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.